There's a moment in every fandom where you sit back, stare at the screen, and wonder how the heck we got here. For me, that moment was when Bo-Katan walked into The Mandalorian, and the entire vibe shifted like we just swapped directors mid-season. One minute we're watching Din navigate fatherhood and shootouts. The next we're stuck in a Mandalorian group project nobody signed up for. And look, I'm not saying Bo-Katan didn't have potential. She had lore, armor, that icy stare that could kill a womp rat at 20 paces. But somewhere between her dramatic helmet removal and her endless lectures about honor, the show stopped being about grit and started being about entitlement. And nothing kills momentum faster than someone acting like they're too cool to be in the scene they're in. It was wild watching Djarin go from mysterious gunslinger to Bo-Katan's silent chauffeur. She'd bark orders, stare into the middle distance, and Din would just nod. Maybe say something about the creed. Maybe get knocked out again. Meanwhile, Grogu is spinning in his chair like this is just Tuesday. And the show expects us to call that growth. But you could feel it. That tonal shift. The moment where the series stopped asking what Din believes, and started asking how fast they could hand Bo the Darksaber without upsetting Twitter. It's like they wrote her a story arc, and then forgot to build the actual story around it. She didn't evolve, she just got promoted. And we were supposed to clap for that. And if you dared to question it, if you said, hey, maybe the guy with the helmet deserves some screen time, you got told you just didn't get it. But I do get it. I get that giving legacy characters the spotlight can work if they actually serve the emotional core. Instead, Bo-Katan hijacked the plot and turned the finale into her coronation speech. And honestly, I want a refund. In this video, we're diving headfirst into how Bo-Katan went from interesting addition to narrative black hole. How her presence warped the focus of The Mandalorian, sidelined its main character, and gave us one of the weirdest tonal pivots in modern Star Wars. When Bo-Katan first appeared in The Mandalorian, I'll admit I was intrigued. Not hyped, not sold, just curious what they were going to do with her in live action. We'd seen her in the Clone Wars, we'd seen her in Rebels, and we knew she had history. But I wondered how she'd fit into a story that had been so laser-focused on Din Djarin and Grogu. It was a stripped-down western in space, not a Mandalorian family reunion. Her entrance had all the right pieces on paper. Armor, legacy, Katie Sackhoff's commanding voice. She showed up on that boat in full icon mode, like a character stepping out of a fan edit. She took her helmet off and immediately challenged everything Din thought he knew, which was fine. It opened up the world a little. It created conflict. But right from the jump, something felt off. Instead of feeling like a meaningful new layer, Bo-Katan's arrival shifted the energy. Din's quiet introspection took a back seat to exposition dumps about royal lineages and faction politics. It wasn't organic, it wasn't earned, and it wasn't particularly interesting unless you had a Wikipedia tab open mid-episode. Suddenly the show wasn't about a bounty hunter and a mysterious child. It was about a crown and a blade and a woman who seemed deeply annoyed to be in the room. But I held out hope. I figured maybe it was just the setup, a way to broaden the scope before narrowing back in. After all, Star Wars thrives when it blends the personal with the epic. Maybe Bo-Katan was just a temporary force of tension, a character who would push Din to evolve without stealing the spotlight. I wanted to believe this wasn't a hijack in progress, and yet, the longer she stayed, the more it felt like someone rewrote the show without telling the guy in the helmet. By season 3, The Mandalorian didn't even feel like The Mandalorian anymore. It felt like Bo-Katan, the rise of a grumpy queen. Din was relegated to side quests. Grogu became a floating emoji, and Bo-Katan started delivering every line like she was exhausted with the entire galaxy. And somehow, this was framed as character depth. Every episode, she talked down to someone. Din, the armorer, random Mandalorians, just trying to vibe. She carried herself like she was too important for the plot she was in, and the show just let her. She got the emotional beats, the redemption arc, the leadership moment. Meanwhile, Din got kidnapped by a cyborg crab and had to be rescued like the least interesting NPC in a side mission. The Darksaber, once this mysterious symbol of power and myth, turned into a glorified hand-me-down. She lost it. Din got it, and instead of exploring the tension or challenge, the show reverse-engineered a loophole to just hand it back to her. No duel, no growth, no meaning, just technicalities and awkward dialogue. It's like the writers were speedrunning her to the throne without actually writing the journey. There was something special about Din Djarin's original arc. He wasn't chosen, he wasn't born into anything, he wasn't trying to rule, he was just trying to survive. And through Grogu, we saw him slowly grow into a protector, a father, and eventually a believer in something bigger than himself. It was subtle, it was human, and it gave the show its soul. But as Bo-Katan took center stage, Din's arc got smothered. His choices no longer mattered, because she was always the solution. When she saved him in the mines of Mandalore, it wasn't a moment of connection, it was a power shift. When she got to wield the Darksaber again, it wasn't earned it was convenient. And when she rallied the clans, it wasn't inspirational it was expected. I missed the version of this show where Din made hard decisions, where his code was challenged and his worldview expanded. I missed the quiet standoffs, the moral dilemmas, the meaningful silences. Instead, we got lectures from Bo-Katan and lore dumps that felt like rejected textbook chapters. And somewhere in all that noise, the heart of the show got lost. Even Grogu felt sidelined. Remember when he was the emotional anchor of the whole story? Now he's doing backflips and pushing buttons like a green baby Groot with a lightsaber in training. The bond between Din and Grogu used to carry emotional weight. Now it's just set dressing, while Bo-Katan monologues about Mandalorian politics no one really asked for. It's not that Bo-Katan didn't have a place, it's that the story bent around her until nothing else fit. And in the process, the characters that made the show worth watching were pushed into the background of their own narrative. The Mandalorian used to feel like magic. That first season captured something raw and primal about Star Wars. Wide open spaces, dusty towns, bounty pucks, found family. It was quiet and confident and unafraid to let moments breathe. And Din Djarin was the perfect lens for that tone. A man of few words in a galaxy filled with noise. But the shift was dramatic. Suddenly, we were getting Mandalorian councils, clan politics, debates over helmets, and arguments about lineage that felt more like royal drama than space adventure. And leading that charge was Bo-Katan. Cold, serious, unimpressed by everything. And the more the show revolved around her, the more that original spark started to fade. She had her moments, sure. Storming the cruiser with Din was slick. The flashbacks to her past hinted at real tragedy. Even her standoff with Gideon had cinematic weight. But those moments never landed emotionally because the show didn't build them at shortcut to them. It treated her like an icon instead of a character, assuming the audience would care just because the music swelled and the lighting was dramatic. Despite all that, I still think the show can find its way back. Not because Bo-Katan is gone, because The Mandalorian was never about who ruled Mandalore. It was about a man and a child finding meaning in a broken galaxy. And that story isn't over yet. In fact, it might be stronger if it stops trying to be about thrones and starts being about people again. Din still has more to give. Grogu is still growing. The galaxy is still chaotic and fascinating and full of characters we actually care about. The show doesn't need to reboot it, just needs to remember what made it resonate in the first place. Not lore, not legacy, but heart. And that heart lives in quiet choices, small gestures, and the bond between two unlikely wanderers. There's potential to explore what it means for Din to finally be at peace with his identity. To choose who he wants to be, not just what the creed demands. And for Grogu, there's a whole untapped story about belonging and heritage waiting to unfold. And that's where the energy should go, not into rebuilding Mandalore, but into rebuilding themselves. Bo-Katan's arc doesn't need to be erased. It just needs to step aside. Let her be a supporting character again, one with history and complexity, but not the gravitational center of a show that wasn't built for her. The focus needs to shift back to the journey, not the throne room, because the real crown of this series was never the Darksaber. It was that quiet little moment when Din reached out his hand and Grogu reached back. In the end, Bo-Katan didn't ruin The Mandalorian by existing. She ruined it by overwhelming it. The story was so busy trying to elevate her that it forgot who the audience came to see. Not the heiress of Mandalore, but the masked gunslinger and his tiny green foundling. The emotional heartbeat was there from the start and it got drowned out by legacy baggage and political jargon. This isn't about hating Bo-Katan as a character. It's about misusing her, turning her into a narrative anchor when she should have been a narrative spark. It's about forgetting that growth comes from struggle, not entitlement, and that even legacy characters need to earn their place in the present. The tragedy here is that the show had something rare, a story that resonated with longtime fans and newcomers alike, that felt intimate in a galaxy defined by war. And instead of doubling down on that emotional clarity, it got distracted. It started chasing titles and timelines and lost track of the soul at the center of it all. Thank you for watching the whole video. I make videos because of my love for Star Wars and Marvel. I've been asked countless times how I get my subtitles, and I generate them automatically with a tool I built. That same tool can be used here on my website. It's completely free and doesn't require signing up. My website contains the subtitle generator that is perfect for any video. Blogging post, where you can sign up with your email and receive notifications for when I post, and also my 3 channels. Critical Analysis Hub focuses on Star Wars and Marvel movies. Critical Analysis Hub Plus looks at Star Wars and Marvel shows. and Critical Analysis Hub XP centers on video games like The Last of Us series, Jedi Survivor, and GTA 5. Thank you for being a fan.